Kia ora and welcome once again to the Aotearoa Rugby Pod. Plenty of footy to chat as the Rugby Championship kicks back into gear after a weekend off. All, of course, in the context of the Rugby World Cup, which is getting closer and closer. And this weekend, we've got the Bledisloe Cup at the MCG of all places, an outstanding ground to go and watch some rugby, a ground that's been pretty good to the Wallabies. 2 out of 3 against the All Blacks there in the professional era. So we'll talk a fair bit of that. We'll also touch on the box v Argentina. We've got a couple of special guests on the show. One, Samisoni Taukei'aho. The other one we'll reveal in just a second. But joining me to my left, Bryn Hall. Bryn, good to have you in, mate.
Very good to be here. Very good to be here.
Of course, Jipper's away. Jipper is in the United States having a wonderful time. I think we'll probably bring up some photos of him at the Mets and all sorts of places doing professional development. But while he's away, we've got ourselves a really good guest from across the Tasman, 110 Test Wallabies halfback, Will Genia. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.
How's things going over there heading into this Test match on the weekend? A lot of chat in Brizzy where you are?
There is a bit of excitement. I think Eddie Jones is a type of character that tends to generate that with a lot of the remarks that he makes in the media. But every year it comes around, it's our chance to finally get the Bledisloe Cup back. So we're excited. We always are.
So maybe let's start there. Do you feel, considering there's a new coach, considering there's a bunch of new players, are the Wallabies veering in the right direction in the context of the World Cup?
I mean, the results probably suggest that that's not the case. But the one thing I do know about Eddie is he plans things out very meticulously. And I think the biggest change I think he'll bring to the group is he'll bring a winning mindset. And I think very, very similar to what Michael Cheika did when he came in at the end of 2014 before the 2015 World Cup, that they both got a very unwavering self-belief. And I think that's the biggest thing that I think he'll instill into this group. And like I said, the results probably haven't gone his way in terms of suggesting that we're on the right track. But I think he sort of touched on it a bit. You got to be patient. Like, he's come in not having been involved in the Australian rugby system, I think, since 2007. So he not only is he trying to bring in a new style of play, but he's trying to get back into his groove in regards to the play, like the culture, the mindset of the player. And I think he's obviously inherited a Wallaby group that hasn't had success for a long period of time now. So a big part of, I think, wanting to fix that is not just the way that they want to play, but also the mindset around our rugby as well.
Even when Dave Rennie was there, and even the short amount that Eddie's been there, it's the amount of mistakes that the Australians are making. Now, I know they made a transition in their attacking structures because I think under Dave Rennie, we felt in this podcast that they played a lot and that kind of kick balance was probably a little bit off. But obviously with the English style and playing for field position and being able to back your defence and, I guess, go through that way, how do they fix the unforced errors? Because we've been talking around that. Is it just time? Because obviously it's a new group, it's new coaching staff, and it's going to take them time to then get to the World Cup. But it's just an area that I think the last 2 years it's been a massive, I guess, detriment to Australian rugby.
To be brutally honest, I don't think our skill level's probably up to scratch. And I think that's probably been the case for a number of years. I'm not going to put that purely on this current crop of Wallaby players, but if you look at in recent years gone by and you compare us to sides like the All Blacks or sides like Ireland and France, our skill level probably hasn't been up to scratch. And like, I had a good chat with Simon Karevi about it, and he was someone that really enjoyed the way Dave Rennie wanted to play the game, and it involved a lot of moving parts around decision-making and skill execution. And I asked him point blank, is it a case of was the game style too complicated, or was it just the skill level wasn't up to scratch? And he said it was probably a combination of both, but leaned more towards saying that it was our skill level that probably wasn't up to scratch to be able to execute under pressure in big moments. So, someone like Eddie coming in, a lot of people spoke about we probably kicked too much in that first test against South Africa, but I don't know whether he's trying to change the psyche of the players. Like, I had a conversation with someone about this where did he want to kick a lot in that game to be able to change our mindset towards wanting to find balance with kicking? Because as Australian rugby players, we probably haven't found that balance in years gone by where we look to use the ball a little bit too much. So maybe, is it a long-term plan where let's look to kick the ball a little bit more, then we can rein it in as we get closer to the World Cup? But then we played against Argentina, and it probably wasn't necessarily the kick-run balance. It was more a case of just, again, skill execution and decision-making under fatigue and under pressure. So it's in terms of the work-ons for it. I mean, again, Eddie's spoken about it in the media. It's just about trying to change habits, and you change habits by just putting in the work. So it's going to take time, and he's spoken a lot about being a smash and grab job because of the fact that he's come in very late at the piece to try and get to the World Cup. But I think he understands well and truly that he's there to fix things up as well. It's a smash and grab job, but essentially it's a fix up job as well, I think.
So what's the genesis of that skill level? Is that just the way that the development's going through age groups up to the Wallabies, or why is that skill level not quite there?
Mate, it's probably a combination of things. I think it probably is probably the way the kids are being taught how to play the game in school. Like, it's probably a bit more about system footy and a bit more robotic, as opposed to teaching skills. Teaching decision making, teaching kids to play heads up footy. And then you also got to remember, like, we're in competition with team sports like NRL, soccer, cricket, AFL, and in particular rugby league. They probably get the pick of the athletes, and so that obviously plays its part in I guess the development of skills moving forward in the game.
Eddie Jones's goal, and you'd have to think the Wallabies, is to be able to peak come World Cup time. You've talked about it on your podcast, actually, mate. I listened to that with Gits around them having the better side of the draw and possibly winning the World Cup. But I guess for you, and seeing them and being in that environment, what are the areas that you think that are the big rocks that they can kind of get done quickly to then be able to go to a World Cup and win a World Cup? What are the areas that you think that a couple that they might need to improve on that they haven't been able to do the last couple of years?
I'd say work off the ball. I think we probably get caught too many times when we've made errors. We're very slow to react. And teams like New Zealand, for example, this weekend, teams like France as well, they're going to kill you in transition if you turn the ball over and make mistakes and you don't react quick enough. And likewise, on the other side of the ball, when teams make mistakes against us, we've got to be able to react quicker to be able to play better transition rugby. I think we're a little bit slow in that regard because, maybe it's a decision-making thing or a skill level thing, but it's a habit that I think that we need to change and we need to be better at. And that's probably the biggest one that I can sort of see. And then the other one is probably just a physical battle. Like you look at the All Black game against the Springboks that they just played. People have spoken a lot about the tempo and how they played at such high speed, but for me, it was the physicality that set the tone for them. Like, you can't play high tempo, high speed rugby unless you win those collisions, and it just seemed like the All Blacks went out with a real emphasis on wanting to take the Springboks on in that space. And so I think that's also another area that we need to be better at. We need to be better at dominating the collisions and allowing us to play off some front foot ball, and likewise in defence, putting pressure on teams in that space as well.
Because we've had a lot of conversation around our loose forward trio and being able to get that kind of, breakdown physicality and winning those collisions more consistently. Where do you find your best loose forward trio is with the Wallabies? Because I think Rob Valentini obviously is a guy that you'd pencil in there straight away, but then the likes of obviously Pete Samu not being selected, it's a real interesting thing why he wouldn't be selected there, because we think the bigger sizes, you've got Hooper and McWright, who are more the features and your traditional features, but do you feel that's an area that you need to have bigger bodies? I know they've got Skelton and Arnold that they've brought back from the French and Japan, but is that an area where you think they need to be a little bit bigger, possibly?
Mate, definitely. For me, a huge head scratcher why Pete Simon was left out of the squad. I think he's been such a consistently good player for the Wallabies in the last couple of years. Granted, he's played a lot of his footy off the bench, but no, I think the way Test rugby is going, I don't necessarily think you need a fetcher as much as you did in years gone by. I'd rather have size. Because the thing about it is you can slow the opposition's ball down two ways, right? If you're a David Pocock-style player, you can put pressure on the ball and slow it down. Or you can slow it down by winning those collisions with bigger bodies, making dominant tackles, flooding the ruck and slowing it that way, as opposed to getting someone over the ball. And I think I'd much rather go the route of having the bigger bodies, particularly in that back row, and slowing the ball down that way. And I think the All Blacks seem to have got their loose trio combination. I think we're still searching at the moment. I think Hoops probably wouldn't be happy with the way that he played in that first Springbok game in South Africa. He's a world-class player, and I know he'll bounce back, but he probably, he looked like he was carrying some sort of injury with his shoulder, and he probably didn't win the collisions as much as he would have liked. But, yeah, look, I like the look of Valentini at number 8. Robbie Leota's coming back. I like the look of him at 6. He's a big body. He's dynamic in the carry. Loves the physical stuff. And, yeah, my pick would have been Pete Samuel at 7, just to give him an opportunity. Again, someone who enjoys the physical battle. He's dynamic in the ball carry as well, and he creates a lot of opportunities with offloads in that space. And I think we've got to get that balance right, because you look at the All Blacks. I think the player that I've been honestly really, really impressed with is Scott Barrett. I think he's been incredible. His ability in the ball carry. he probably doesn't get spoken about enough. His ability in the ball carry, he's always looking to dominate that physical space, and we probably need a little bit more of that from our second rows as well. You know, Big Willie and Richie Arnold. I rate him really, really highly. For whatever reason, he seems to be someone who he's always moving onto the ball with pace in the carry. He's got a huge engine, and because he's solid in the carry, he has the ability to create offloads as well. I think they've got a really nice balance there. Obviously, Sam Whitelock is an absolute legend of the game. He has to come back as well, and you've got to find ways to fit him in. But I don't know. I really like the way that they've looked and that forward pack has functioned. I think Scott Barrett's been excellent, and obviously Frizzell was phenomenal on the weekend as well.
Well, joining us in the studio, All Blacks hooker Samisoni Taukei'aho. Samisoni, thank you very much for coming along.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. Come on, Chip.
No, mate, Ross, come on.
No, it's the first time I've had a hooker in, mate. You must be very excited.
A really quality one at that too, so yeah. it's even better. Mate,
World Cup year, the French trip is on the horizon. Let's start with that, mate. You've played over there.
Yeah.
You know, obviously the French are first up. What's it like?
Really passionate crowd. Not just the game day, but like pairing up during the week. They're just right behind their team, and they're just chanting and really vocal, loud. But it's not just like in the start, it's like the whole game. So they're obviously there. I'm not too sure what they're drinking, but they're always having a good time.
That was sort of the game that probably put your test career on the map, and not to get into rugby, but I just can't help myself. But I suppose the facets of the game that you've always been strong at is ball carry, defence, you know, your scrummaging, but the one area that has just gone from strength to strength is your throwing. Like, what sort of changed in that environment? Because even when you went back to the Chiefs, it's just been, you know, money ball since you've joined the All Black environment.
I think for me, Chipper, was just like the confidence. Obviously, you can practice as much as you can, but the top 2 inches, if you're not thinking you're confident enough to execute a throw, then there's no point of. For me, it was just like you can practice throw 100 ball. They keep telling you throw 100 ball a day and 1,000 something a week or whatever. But yeah, it just comes down to being able to execute that skill set under pressure. And for me, I think in the All Blacks environment, they obviously set up like the lineup that suits a person. Obviously, my first game was coming in. They kept it really simple, and just keep building my confidence. And yeah, I think that's what helped me really well to obviously get better and better. It's just having the confidence in my ability to execute it, but also having world-class locks around me, and going to the All Blacks with Brody, Scooter, Sam Whitelock, and obviously going back to the Chiefs, you still got Brody there, and then you've got the likes of Tupou and Josh Lord, Naito as well, like big men that just give you that more room to throw to. So, but yeah, for me it was just more the confidence thing. So, yeah.
Did you work with that with Dane and Cody, or was that something you worked with maybe with like a Sam or Brody?
Obviously with the hooker group there, Dane and Cody really helpful. They just pretty much chucked me under their wing and give me a few tips, obviously, with my throwing, just how to get this rotation and little things, like really little things, but all adds up to a perfect throw. So Cozy was massive on that, just but not just doing it once, was more repetitive effort and being able to execute a throw, not just once, but like you can hit it 10 times to the same mark in one go. So and with that develop confidence that, oh yeah, I actually could do it. And then when it comes to the game, it's just like, oh, I've done this the whole week. I've been building up and installing all that confidence, and it's just let loose and pull the trigger.
How do you find that competition? Because obviously you want to play. You're at the Chiefs, and you're the incumbent hooker there, and it's very easy to be able to play in every single week. How do you find that mentally to be able to stay on when you've got 2 guys behind you napping at your feet as well?
I just find I really enjoy the competition, and it brings the best out of everyone. And like for me, if I'm on my best, and then Cody and Cozy, then whoever gets out there is obviously the right choice, and we back each other. We prepare the two that's going out, and but you always stay ready. The All Blacks pride themselves in just preparing to play up until kickoff, because anything could happen. My debut was on captain's run. I got told that I'll be playing with Cozy, and second test was on the warm-up. I got pulled in, so you're always prepared to play, but that competition you touch on, it just makes everyone a better player, and I'm all for it, and whoever gets to play, but it's a whole collective of free hookers. We've got a really good relationship, and whoever gets the nod, we're right behind him. And
when you go off into your little hooking group, like what are you doing? Are you doing green tea like the midfield backs, or like what are you guys up to?
Cozy's a bit of old school, so it's more like just sit around in a circle and
get it done,
done and dusted, and he's there we go. We'll see you in training. But it's quite good, because it's like, obviously you have someone like Cozy who's been to the 15, the 19, and both of them actually went on for this. So just a lot of experience, and from a young player like me, it's just can't ask for any more than their experience, and they've been there, done that. They've won a World Cup, and they've played big games, and I'll just be a sponge. And
because the last 12 months, especially the breakdown area, it's been a massive improvement in the All Black forward pack. And what does that come down to, do you reckon?
Well, obviously Chase come in. It's just a real sharp shooter, right into the point. A lot of details, and you just got to nail your detail, but treat everyone the same, coach everyone the same. It doesn't matter how many tests you've played. If you played 100 or it's your first year, everyone's on the same pedestal, and just bring that edge, I guess, and that competitiveness. Like, it brings the best out of everyone, and obviously not like he just put challenge out to people, and does obviously, like, I feel like you can't get too comfortable. You're always getting better, and you always find little things to challenge you about, and get the best out of you. And I think that's from the last 12 months in the forward pack especially, it's just that building that steel. That we talk about we always bring like the forwards in the past and what they've been capable of doing, and they've set that standard, the All Blacks forward pack standard, and for us, it's just trying to get to that standard as close as we can, and if we stay up there or as close to it, then we'll be doing a good job. So, but it's just probably not being satisfied with what we've done and what we've achieved, but keep getting better and get that edge, and build that, go back to that dominant forward pack that the All Blacks used to have, and that bit of steel in them, and put fear into the other team. So
He almost looks like, from the outside looking in, to have decluttered or simplified. It's almost like you've got less to focus on, so you can be more accurate. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's really massive on just keeping things really simple. So we give like certain tasks to certain players and certain roles. So you don't go in there and you're thinking about too many roles. It's like, at the moment, it's like if we're defending a more, this is what you're doing. Give you the time to do it, when to do it, and see a picture, you smack it. And obviously there's a lot of work behind the scene, getting all those homeworks and stuff, but for a player like myself, it's like, Sonny, this is what you'll be doing, when you're going to do it, and what picture you're looking for, and I'm just out there looking for that picture and just executing that role, and I'm really keeping it really simple but really effective. So
was one of those roles being cold-blooded on the weekend, because you're one of the nicest guys I've ever interacted with after, sort of off the field, but when you cross that white line, Quagga Smith really learnt the steel aspect of Samisoni.
To be honest, I was trying to get the ball because we got a penalty. I was trying to see if to give it to Nagi or whoever, just see if we're gonna play fast. But I was trying to grab him to grab the ball, but he was skip leg driving it, and the ball was the ball was already, obviously the whistle was already pointed. So I was just trying to get the ball, and so
much of the All Black environment is about the legacy and connecting with that, sort of knowing where you've come from to know where you want to get to. And you've had a few legends in the environment this year. You've obviously had Kevy, which would have been great for you. Liam, saw Richie was there last week. How's that been, and what have they sort of contributed?
Obviously it's like you just get starstruck sometimes when you meet them, and it's just like, wow, it's like Kevy, Hunger and Liam Messam and Richie, but just having them around there and just someone that has been there and done that, and you can kind of share if you want to talk to them and get some feedback, or just have a yarn and just feel connected to what has been a very successful legacy of the All Blacks, and they've been a part of that. So just getting to know that a bit more. But then we had Conrad Smith as well in for the backs, but yeah, it's just been massive for me as a player, and I'm sure I'm talking on behalf of all of the players. I really appreciate them being around, so yeah, it's really good.
Forecasting for the future, you watch a lot of the French and the Irish. Yeah. Any area that you guys are working on predominantly now that you think is going to be beneficial moving forward to the World Cup?
Yeah, I think the breakdown, they're big men over the French and the Irish. They attack that breakdown quite hard and try to slow the ball, because obviously they know that we like playing with the ball faster. And I think we've just been working on that collision side of it, just winning that collision, getting front foot ball and going from there really, because sometimes trainings are real hard on first days, but it's good to set us up to go out on Saturday and do the job. So
nice.
You got 10 tries already in Test footy. Hookers like Jipper didn't get those opportunities.
You missed out, Jip.
You know, like obviously the Hookers...
I would have had to have gone at 5 a test if that was the case.
Yeah. The Hookers get the pay. I think you got 2 on Test debut, didn't you? The Hookers get the payday these days. Do you hear much from these blokes about, you know, how they didn't get that kind of payday back in the day?
I'm not sure, but I think the rolling mall is going quite well.
Definitely been a change in the card, isn't it?
I think it's the Hookers clipped the tickets, but 7 other blokes are doing the hard mahi up front, so just get to fall on the line.
You've been a little bit humble, because I tell you what, between the goal line and that 10-metre area, you ball in hand, pretty explosive and dynamic.
Quite get excited about that. I was just quite excited about. I just get excited about ball in hand really. Anywhere I'll take hard carries if I have to and run into brick walls. I don't really mind doing that. So
it's a great mindset.
Because how many minutes did you get against the South African side at Mount Smart?
I think I got 30.
30, yeah. Because you're one of the players that were high in the carries.
Yeah,
so
I
you
got
just
7 carries in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And obviously, this huge fan over here of Malcolm Marx. Just loves him. What's it like playing against that guy? Because he looks like an absolute weapon.
He's actually like quite built and he's quite tall. So like scrummaging wise, you just got to nail it, because sometimes he can separate you from your connection with the props, and he does that quite well. So. But I was quite lucky on the weekend. I had Nepo on one side and Big Tamati on the other, so it was quite safe in there.
Well secured.
Yeah, but you just got to nail those finer details and blocking and keeping him out, because when he came on, he caused a bit of havoc. So quality player. Obviously, we know defensive side of it, over the ball is pretty much immovable. Yeah, you can't move him because he just locks in. Got really good technique. But yeah, for a tall person, he's really good, and around the field is world class. So
he really attacks you at scrum time.
Yeah, so they're big men. So you got to get that punch. Like Chipper will know more about it. Like right, otherwise, you can be going backwards pretty quick. So, but we've just been nailing that all weekend. I think the boys executed really well on the weekend, and that obviously with South African, you take away their maul and their scrum. That's kind of their DNA and what they set up their game. So you take that away from them, and you go a long way to getting the job done.
Just on that, the line-out maul try. How was Jason Ryan? Have you guys would have had your review? How was he in that review?
Nah, we haven't had our review.
No, you haven't had it yet? Okay.
Yeah, he is. He definitely won't be happy about that. Yeah, so.
It's been a massive growth though.
Yeah.
Like, man, like the maul is almost a weapon for you guys now in the last 12 months.
Yeah, I think because that shows, I feel like defending a maul shows how much you care and how much it means to you, because you wouldn't want to let someone score in the forward pack, and just shows the dominant forward pack, and if you let them in, obviously it's, Chase doesn't get too happy about it, but we'll review and take the learnings out of it and move forward. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Samisoni.
No worries.
Really appreciate it.
Cheers,
obviously, you're around another 4 years until 2027. So,
we'll see more of you on the show.
So it's just like happy to stay on with obviously Chiefs and New Zealand rugby, and I'm enjoying my footy at the moment, and looking forward to the next 4 years.
We're happy to have you, mate. We're happy to have you for another 4 years.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you very much to Samisoni Taukei'aho for coming on the show. A hell of a rugby player, hopefully one of the stars of the World Cup. Bryn, speaking about the World Cup, in previous years the Japanese have starred. They've come through, they've beaten teams like South Africa, they've put lots of teams on notice, but they're not looking tremendous heading into this off the back of their loss to Samoa.
Yeah, I think it's just a bit of a kind of a tough situation at the moment. I think considering how much kind of lead-up time that they've had, knowing a lot of those Japanese players that have been in that environment, you'd like to think that they'd be looking a lot better, a lot more smoother. So you almost forgive them for the All Blacks 15 and being able to, I guess, having two different teams and being able to try and put things together. But playing against the Samoans team, they would have probably thought that it was a really good opportunity for them to be able to build some confidence, knowing that the Samoans was their first game. But yeah, just the areas that I think they're really lacking is they make a lot of mistakes, crucial times. And I know in Japan at the moment it's very hot and very humid, but the conditions might be playing a bit of a part, but they're just making far too many errors. And from that, you look at the All Blacks 15 when they played them in those two test matches, the click attack or the turnover attack that the New Zealanders were able to do and be able to score points from that. Now the Samoans didn't do that on the weekend, it was a lot closer, but you'd like to think against the top teams that they can end up playing in the World Cup, they don't get that very, very well. They're going to end up having the results like they did against the All Blacks 15.
Hope was that they would move up from being a team that would win occasional games at World Cup to being a team that could make the playoffs and consistently beat top teams. When you look at this pool, England, Argentina, Samoa, and then Chile, they could come fourth in that pool.
They could, but at the same time, they could obviously make the playoffs because they have had the experiences of being able to tip up teams, the likes of Ireland, and then even in other World Cups beating, the top tier nations. So, it might be a little bit different when they get into that World Cup. And I think coming back to what I'm talking around as in getting the confidence and having that 23 to be able to then continue to try and get some better results in the areas that I've talked about. But you said England that you'd have to think is going to go through. It's going to be Argentina, Samoa, and themselves that they're going to be able to try play for that second spot. So. Yeah, all is not lost, but I think there definitely need to be some shifts in that group moving forward, definitely.
This weekend, the Springboks against Argentina in Johannesburg. We're going to expect, I suppose, some shifts from the Springboks team that played against the All Blacks, but you wouldn't expect there to be that many changes because they're going to roll out a plan, I think, again. And this team will probably be out by the time this goes to air. But where do you think the Boks need to improve against Argentina? And do you think that Argentina have a shot against the Boks?
Definitely think they do. The Argentinians are very good around that breakdown and collision area. The times that they've beaten the All Blacks or even the Australians as well, for long periods of that Australian Test match, they held on to the ball, were physical and really abrasive at the breakdown and were able to hold on to the ball, especially in that 22 minutes for 5 to 6 minutes, whereas the Wallabies only had it for 23 seconds within that first 50 minutes. So if they can hold on the ball and be able to build the phases, it's going to be really good for them. But I think for the South Africans, I think it was just more so. You have another team that didn't travel, and I guess the cohesion and being a little bit underdone, I think, probably led to that result. So they had 12 penalties, they had 11 turnovers. That's handing the ball over 20 to 25 times in a game against an All Black team. You're not going to win a game, so you'd have to think they'll clear that up. And I'd be really excited, hearing whispers that possibly Lebok and Willems are at 10 and 15. I think that's going to be a great way to be able to bring an attacking brand, which we love to see and we've talked about. We'd love to see them do that. So if they get those two guys together, I'm really looking forward to seeing how they can improve that attacking prowess. But at the same time, they do have their DNA. They can be really strong in the set piece, big ball carriers like we saw against the Wallabies, dominating the collision areas. And I think they'll be a lot better. So
Springboks beat Argentina.
Yeah.
All Blacks win in Melbourne.
I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be tough because we don't usually travel well to Australia. Sometimes when we have lost, we've got a formidable record at home, but anytime we do go to parts of Australia, it's really tough for us to win those games. And look, Eddie Jones, there's been a lot of talk around him and that Wallaby group, and they'll be hurting, really, really hurting. And they have had success in Australia against us, and we've talked around a lot of things that they need to improve on. But another week in camp, they would have had a bit of time, but they've come in, knowing that all the pressure is on the All Blacks. They haven't won the Bledisloe Cup for 20 years. It's just a foregone conclusion. You're thinking from around the world that the All Blacks are just going to win this game. But again, Eddie Jones will be hopefully turning up their notch a little bit for the back end of the week, knowing that it's a great opportunity for that group to, I guess, rectify a pretty poor start to the Rugby Championship.
Yeah, well, they've won the last two at the MCG, 1998 and 2007. New Zealand won the 1997 clash. That is a long time ago, so the context is somewhat different, especially the 1998 year when the Wallabies went on to win the World Cup the next year, and the All Blacks had a terrible year and didn't.
But to be honest, it's just like, you know, the Australians, it doesn't take them that much to get that bit of confidence, you know. It might just be one test match, and I think Eddie Jones brought it up in his press conference, whether that's a win or just something that clicks for that group, where they can be able to then springboard themselves to the Rugby World Cup, because I think that's what he wants to do. The growing pains that they're having now that we're seeing, if they can have that one win or that one moment that Eddie's really thinking that's going to, I guess, change the Australians and the Wallabies, what a better opportunity than to do it against the All Blacks, and then to have a decider to try and win that Bledisloe Cup. It's all set up for them, I believe. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Bryn. No problem. We'll see you again next week. And thank you very much to Will Genia for coming on the show today, and also to Samisoni Taukei'aho for coming on, giving us insights into the Wallabies and the All Blacks. We'll catch you again next week, but please get in contact via email, Aotearoa Rugby Pod @sky.co.nz, or in the comments section on YouTube. We'd love to hear from you and love to get some of your questions in and around what's going on in World Rugby, especially looking forward to World Cup year. So we'll catch you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks you for listening if you do it on an audio podcast, and we'd like to see and hear from you again. Mā te wā.